The episode begins with Volva informing Olav about the prophecy in the boathouse. She claims that they have misinterpreted the vision because she has seen another person who has traveled through time and has the ability to re-release Olav's power. Despite Mad having traveled in time's direction, Volva has recently met someone whose light shines much brighter than Mad. It appears that Volva is referring to Ulfhildr. In the next scene, we see Lars and Ulfhildr fly to London to conduct further investigation into the two imposters, Ben Joseph and Edipero. Following that, they head to the London police station and speak with Henry and Clark. Henry and Clark reveal that Ben and Edipero are still in Oslo and are working for a Neo-Luddite company. In addition, Henry informs them that the Neo-Luddites do not use modern communication devices, but rather homing pigeons. He then orders Lars and Ulfhildr to find out who sent the message from Oslo, and that's where Ben and Edipero are hiding. Before departing, Lars asks if they have discovered Ben's involvement in the Jack the Ripper investigation, because he has found Ben's name in a scholarly article on the White-Capelle murders. However, Henry dismisses him, claiming that there could be several people with the name Ben in 19th century London. The same night, Lars is researching homing pigeons when Ulfhildr sleepwalks at his door. The next morning, while having breakfast at her London hotel, Lars asks Ulfhildr if she has consulted the doctor about her sleepwalking problem, to which she responds that she has consulted the old faith. However, Lars persuades her to see a doctor because it will be more scientific. On the other hand, Ingrid is 5 weeks pregnant, and her family is pressuring her to have an abortion. One day, she goes to Sturla, the same guy she hooked up with, and informs him about her pregnancy. She also shares her decision to abort the child, but Sturla threatens her not to kill the child, confusing Ingrid on what to do. Meanwhile, Olav and his lawyer go to the municipal office, claiming to have the DNA of the skull tested so that he can regain his true identity as a king. And this time, they agree. Lars and Ulfhildr return to the Oslo headquarters, where Ulfhildr shares her plan with the rest of the team. She considers capturing one of the homing pigeons in Enerhagen with the assistance of wildlife services, implanting the GPS in it, and allowing it to guide them to their targets. In the evening, the chief notices the newspaper with the news of Jack the Ripper's involvement in the tunnel murder case. Then, the chief and Harold then accuse Lars of unwisely bringing up the Jack the Ripper theory in front of the public. Following this, Lars admits to discussing it with London police, who had a conspicuous reaction after hearing it. He tries to explain, but Harold cuts him off, telling him not to bring that topic up again. A few moments later, Lars receives a message from Gregers and proceeds to his place. Upon reaching there, Lars discovers that Sturla has threatened to kill her if she aborts the child. The next day, Lars and the team apprehend the man who sends the messages via homing pigeon. They then attach a tracking device to the pigeon and release it, allowing the armed forces to track it. Eventually, the armed forces arrive at the bee farm and arrest Ben, Clark as well as the guy from the bee farm. Following this, Harold and the chief commend the team's efforts, but Lars is not permitted to stay for interrogation because he is still an external consultant. Meanwhile, Alex and another officer are inspecting the items recovered from the bee farm when the officer discovers the same data file of 3 girls that Alex had previously deleted. When Alex notices this, he tries to persuade the officer to throw it away, but the officer takes a photograph of it, thinking it might be useful. Later, Wetch and Ulfhildr question Ben about the case, but Ben refuses to talk to anyone other than Lars. Meanwhile, Tor is released from the police station, but not before hearing the news about Olav's DNA test on the radio. He then tells Ulfhildr about it, claiming that Olav vandalized his own church because he needed modern proof of who he is. According to Tor, Olav planted the evidence in Tor's place, putting the blame on him. The next day, Olav goes live on his YouTube channel to discuss DNA and the desecration of the Nidaros Cathedral by heathens. He believes that God will now reveal his true identity. On the other hand, Ulfhildr visits the doctor in order to get rid of her sleepwalking problem. Upon examining her, the doctors are perplexed because they have never seen a case like this before. At the police station, Lars approaches Ben to interrogate him about the murder. Ben reveals that the book he gave him previously contains all of the answers to the murder. Elsewhere, Henry and Clark are reviewing CCTV footage when they notice a man walking towards the same tunnel where the murder was committed. In the following scene, we see the same man from the CCTV footage entering a house and questioning a lady named Rebecca about the woman with nasal syphilis named Emma. When Rebecca learns of this, she tries to warn someone, but the man immediately abducts her. On the other hand, Lars pays a visit to Ingrid and gives her an alert device, instructing her to press the button if she is in danger. Just then, Mad summons Ingrid to accompany her to Olav's new home. The next day, Lars and his team observe the chief and Harold's press conference. In the press conference, they inform that the suspect for the tunnel murder case is in custody and will be effectively extradited to the London Metropolitan Police. After witnessing this, Lars and Ulfhildr visit the prison to question Ben one last time. Ben then reveals that the CCTV guy is behind the tunnel murder, and he is the real Jack the Ripper. When Ulfhildr hears this, she wonders how he can be the real Jack the Ripper as he is from the present time. Ben responds that Jack traveled backwards in time, contradicting the general consensus. Meanwhile, Mad is showing Olaf's house to her friends when Volva arrives at the door. Mad then approaches her and asks her to leave because she has no interest in doing any business with her. Volva claims that Mad must be scared as her partner, Olav, has found someone else. Before leaving, she also claims that Olav has given her his phone number, making Mad envious. The next day, the chief and Harold confront Lars and Ulfhildr regarding the investigation they had with Ben without permission. Harold also claims that the London police are demanding that the recording of the investigation be sent. Lars responds that they do not have any recordings, which enraged Harold. Following this, the chief and Harold decide to remove Lars and Ulfhildr from the case and delegate its leadership to Wench. Later, one of the officers informs Lars and Ulfhildr about Rebecca's disappearance and decides to look into it the next day. In the evening, Ulfhildr visits the doctor, who informs her that her hippocampus is much larger and more active than normal. The doctor also believes that time migration is to blame for the deviation. Hearing this, Ulfhildr decides to discontinue her treatment and asks that the doctor return her journal and delete all copies of it. The same night, Lars receives the alert signal from Ingrid and rushes to her place. Upon reaching there, Ingrid shows him something that appears to be from a hair. Following this, Lars contacts Ulfhildr, and the two of them make their way to the gym to meet Sturla. After some time, they arrive at the gym, where Lars accuses Sturla of threatening Ingrid, but Sturla refutes this as a misunderstanding. Lars then cautions him not to mess with his daughter. Lars is about to leave when he hears Sturla cursing Ingrid, and as a result, he grabs the barbell sleeves and knocks Sturla out. Following this, he returns home and notices the Temprixate drops. This time, he is unable to stop himself from using the Temprixate drops. The next day at work, Lars, Ulfhildr, and the officer discuss Rebecca's case. They look for the person whom Rebecca attempted to contact before she was abducted. Following this, Lars and Ulfhildr go to the mobile store to find out who owns the phone Rebecca called, whereas the officer goes to the crime scene for further investigation. While investigating the crime scene, the officer discovers Rebecca's dead body in the garbage box. In the meantime, Lars and Ulfhildr retrieve a photograph of the phone's owner. Later, Lars and Ulfhildr show the picture to the officer, who recognizes the girl because he photographed her file previously. The girl appears to be none other than Emma. The officer then displays Emma's file that was retrieved from the bee farm earlier. In the file, they discover Emma's detail along with the information about the victim from the tunnel, indicating that the tunnel murder is related to the current case. On the other hand, Sturla's men arrive at Gregor's house and brutally beat him up, mistaking him for Ingrid's father. After this, Gregors is taken to the hospital to receive treatment. Later, Lars receives a phone call from Marie informing him of Gregor's incident. After learning of this, Lars pays a visit to Gregors, who explains to him about the incident and that the attack was actually directed towards Lars. Lars then apologizes to him and reveals about the previous night's incident, during which he completely lost it. Elsewhere, the CCTV guy texts Emma and tells her to meet him as soon as possible, to which she agrees. Meanwhile, Ulfhildr finds that the CCTV guy was a physics professor who resigned after the Me Too incident. Later in the evening, Wench invites Ulfhildr to a short track shooting practice, where Ulfhildr is able to hit the target professionally. Meanwhile, Olaf pays a visit to Volva, who is seen inhaling some dust powder, referring to it as the dust of White Christ. According to Volva, the dust of White Christ makes God's flame burn stronger. She also persuades him to consume it, and soon after, she tastes his blood and performs a ritual, causing him to remind him of his past. She then claims that Ulfhildr has a role to play in his return to power because she has been touched by the gods. The following day, Lars and Ulfhildr inform Harold about the common murderer and persuade him to rehire them on the previous case. Following this, they track Emma's phone signals, and the armed force, led by Lars and Ulfhildr, proceeds to the specified location, namely Ekeberg Forest. In the meantime, Emma is seen waiting for the CCTV guy at Ekeberg Forest. Just before the cops arrive, the CCTV guy approaches Emma, slices her throat, and flees from the location. Shortly after, the police reach the forest and discover Emma's dead body. This makes Lars and Ulfhildr feel bad because they are only a few minutes late in saving Emma. Subscribe to see more videos like this, turn on the notifications, and hit a like to help the channel grow. Don't forget to watch part 5. Thanks for watching.